So what we want to try and do here is take one variable, in this case height, and graph it males versus females, perhaps in an overlapping chart of some description, a histogram. Now there's no simple way of doing that in Excel, so we're going to have to use something a little bit fancy. So up here, insert pivot table. So we're going to, there it is, and that's identified my data. I'm going to put it in the existing worksheet. So I'm going to this cell, I'm going to put it there, and we're going to say great. Okay, now it's brought in the variables, and the one I'm going to use is height centimeters. So what I did was I took the meters and times it by 100 to centimeters, just to make it easier for me, bearing in mind that centimeters is not an SI unit. Okay, so I'm bringing height down to rows, I'm bringing height down to values, and that's pretty cool. So I've got each of those values, but summing it isn't really what I want. So click here, value field, and I want count. Now it's counting up every time, so 160 has got 16 values, but really we want some classes here that are a little bit better. So group selection, what's the minimum data is 62, the maximum seems to be that, so I'm going to just make that 200, and the bins or the cells I'm going to make 5 centimeters. Okay, great, but not very helpful for me because we've got all the data and we want it by males and females. So taking gender, drag it to columns, perfect. We've now got the females separated and the males, and there's a bit of overlap, but not too bad. Pivot chart, so that's what we want, some form of overlapping bar chart. So let's just, we don't need the pivot table anymore, so let's make that a little bit bigger. We can get rid of that field, and then we want to really organize this a little bit. So how do we do that? Right click, format data, gap, bring that slider all the way to 0, and the series overlap to 100. They're overlapping. Now my problem is that we can't see one for the other. So go to the paint can, go to solid color, transparency, let's have it at 50. Let's bring back that nice color, let's have an orange, and we're doing well. Let's have a border around each column, that should be cool. Okay, so I now need to click on there and do the same, solid, or let's have another color. Let's put the blue back, let's make it transparent again, so the solid line. Okay, so what I've now got is a really nice graph, but let's just get rid of all of those buttons, they look a bit odd. Okay, so what have I got? I've got the smaller male data, a nice normal distribution, and the female difference, and the modal groups are clearly very different, so it's likely that this would be statistically different. And if I was to go forward with this analysis, then we'd try and perhaps test for significance between those two populations. But as it stands, I've got a reasonable looking graph, I've got the classes, I've got the males and females